Once upon a time, there was this boy, and he lived next to a swamp. Where I am talking about this story, there was no door like that opened into the swamp, because it was all swamp. And this boy's name was Wiley. And he had his mother who was very nice. And every morning, the mom would come in to his room in a cabin and say, "Wiley, get up." And Wiley would say, "Yes, Mama." And he'd stretch and wake up. Well, one morning, she came to him and she said, "Wiley, wake up." And he said, "Yes, Mama." And she goes, "Now, Wiley, today I have something special for you to do. You see, Aunt Mabel, she's sick on the other side of the swamp, and she wants me to bring her something to make herself feel better. I thought I would give her some strawberry jam. Can I take the..." "Yes, that's why I'm talking to you. I want you to take the strawberry jam in this basket." "Yay! I get to go to the swamp. You never let me go to the swamp. I want to go to the swamp with the dogs." And she said, "No, I don't want you to take them dogs, Wiley, because every time you go around playing with them dogs, you never get to where you need to go. So today, I'm going to tie up them dogs so that you go by yourself. Let's see if you can do it." "Now, there's something I need to tell you because you're old enough," she said. "Out in the swamp, there is this man. He is a hairy man. He has a lot of hair. It's all over. It's coming out of his ears. It's coming out of his nose. It's like that. His eyebrows look like the hair all over his face. You can't even tell he has eyebrows. It's coming out between the toes there. And why is he so hairy?" said Wiley. "Well," she said, because he's a hairy man." Now, the thing about the hairy man is he is a conjure man. He is a magician. And there's one thing he likes most of all, and that is to take a young little boy like you. He said, "Wiley," he didn't really say it, but he just went, "Huh," that's all he did. But you can tell that meant a lot. That was like he was scared. Do not be afraid of the hairy man. Because you see, I got them dogs. Now, I know they're not going with you. They're tied up with that rope to that pole. But I'll be in my kitchen making that apple pie. I will put a glass of milk on the table. Now, if the milk turns beet red, I know that the hairy man has it. And I will go out, untie the rope, and let them dogs come and protect you." "Okay, Mom." Well, he got dressed real quick. He got his basket of strawberry jam, and he set off into the swamp. Well, it's a great swamp. I don't know if any of you have been in a swamp. It's not quite like a forest because it's got a lot of watery stuff. It's kind of mushy, the muddy, that kind of thing. And he's going through, but he loved it. He was a young boy. He just loved the swamp. There were these birds up in the trees, and they made this weird sound. Sometimes the trees were so thick above him, he couldn't even see too much in front of his face. Sometimes he would see there was these mosquitoes that bothered him a lot. But he tried to go through. He knew where... Snake! Sometimes there was a snake, but if you don't bother the snake usually doesn't bother you, and the snake just kind of slid by. Well, he went through that swamp, and I don't know if it was a long time or a short time, but suddenly he heard it. It went... came from behind it. Can you make that sound?
Yeah.
That's how it sounded. Is that you, Mr. Hairy Man? It's me, Wiley. How you do? I'm fine. And he took his hand, and right back here, right at the shirt, he kind of grabbed Wiley. What you want, Mr. Hairy Man? What you got there in the basket? Now, as he was saying that what you got in the basket, you could smell his breath. Now, you can imagine that the hairy man, that is the hairy man. Was so hairy that he couldn't find his mouth sometimes, so he wouldn't brush his teeth. Plus, with what? His breath stink. Well, as he was doing that, the smell of that breath went over Wiley, and he said, can you do the Wiley sound? Well, they did that back and forth for a while, and the hairy man thought he was kind of singing a song with him because he didn't understand that it was his breath that was making Wiley go, so the hairy man went along with it. They went on like that. They had a little song, and the hairy man started to like the boy, but he didn't, because he goes, you know what I'm going to do? Because the hairy men do this. You know what I'm going to do, Wiley? First of all, I'm going to eat that jar of strawberry jam. And then I'm going to eat you. Well, so there he was, gripped from his shirt in the middle of the swamp, wondering what he's going to do with no dogs. Well, back at the cabin, Mom, you know, she was making a very nice apple pie. Well, you should see that pie. I mean, well, that's another thing. Anyway, so she's making the pie when suddenly the milk there on the table turned beet red. She saw it, as a good mom does. She did that too. I don't know why, but I guess because she was nervous. She went over, ran outside, saw the pole, took some scissors, cut the rope. Woo! The dogs lickety-split ran out into the swamp. Just at that moment, the hairy man has got him up in the air like this. He's already eaten the strawberry jam. He's about to pick it up. When he heard it, woof! Wiley. Them's my dogs. He put him down, straightened his hair a little bit, said, well, Wiley, I got to go. And he brought back the strawberry jam. He put the jar. He didn't eat, it was the jar. He could wipe off the jar. So he put it back in the basket, and lickety-split went off into the swamp. Just as the dogs were arriving, everything was safe. He went over and gave that very special jar of strawberry jam to Aunt Mabel. Now, years later, she said it was maybe not the strawberry jam that made her feel good. It was the kind of weirdness in the taste that hairy man had put on the jar. Well, he had survived that. Maybe about a month later, his mama came in. She walked up to his bed and she said, Wiley, wake up. Yes, Mama. And he stretched and he got up and she said, Wiley, I got another thing for you to do. You see, it's Sunday and I want to take you to church and I wanted us to wear our most best clothes, our Sunday clothes. The problem is that the wash basin that we wash the clothes in has a hole and all the water's gone out. So I have put a bag of our dirty clothes for you to take over to Uncle Frank. I want you to take them dirty clothes to Uncle Frank because over there, his wife, well, she has that big bucket and you can wash the clothes. They wash the clothes for you. You don't need to wash. And you just take it, but you need to go through the swamp. Yeah, I get to go through the swamp. But you can't take the dogs. Remember, because out there, you get playing and you don't take the dirty clothes and you can't go to church. Am I going to see the hairy man? You might see the hairy man. But I'm going to do that same thing. That works so well. I'm going to tie the dogs up to the pole. I'm going to put the glass of milk right there on the table. I'm going to wait to see if it turns beet red. And it'll be just fine. You'll see. Well, so Wiley got dressed, got the bag of dirty clothes, and went off into the swamp. And it was a beautiful swamp. He saw them wild birds that fly. He saw an alligator. The mosquitoes were around. And you think there's a snake, but there's no snake right now. And when in the middle of the swamp, he heard it. Is that you, mister? Hairy man? It's me, Wiley. How you been? I've been good. What you got there in the middle of the swamp with these mosquitoes? What's in the bag? Oh, it ain't nothing. Ain't nothing you'd like. It's not food. It's just a bag of dirty clothes. There's nothing I like more than a bag of dirty clothes. I'm going to eat that bag of dirty clothes, and then I'm going to eat you. He just did that. He didn't say anything. Just looked. He got scared. But he was thinking them dogs are... Snake! They both got distracted with the snake, but you don't bother the snake don't bother you. Snake just went right by, and the story continued. Well, the hairy man, he picked up Wiley. He was making... Wiley that day had put on a vest because he knew the hairy man would come. So as he picked up on the vest, well, Wiley slid out, ran just a little distant, waiting for them dogs. Well, back in the kitchen, Mom was making that apple. She uses this special kind of like sugar and these, well, that's another story. So she's making the pie, and the milk turns beet red. But she doesn't see it. Because you see, one of the apples she cut, half of it rolled off the table and then rolled under that old cast iron stove that she has. It rolled right underneath. She tried to reach it, couldn't reach it. There was a mouse that sort of came and was eyeballing that piece of apple because it looked pretty good. Now and then crumbs of the apple pie would fall and the mouse would be very happy, but that's a whole nother story. Anyway, so underneath that stove was that half apple, and she needed it because they were really good apples. She got her broom and she went and was down underneath, and the milk is like red, just red, like, Mom, it's red. Nothing. She's underneath trying to get it. And Wiley's like, I know, you're thinking that the dogs are coming. But you see, there ain't no dogs today, Wiley. I'm going to eat the dirty clothes and eat you. Well, Wiley ran up to the top of one of the tallest trees he could find, climbed it up the way a kid who lives in the swamp can do, and he looked down, and the hairy man said, Wiley, come on down. He said, Wiley, come on down. Just at that moment, it occurs to Wiley. And I say this to you because there are going to be times that something happens, and you're hoping your parents are going to maybe help you out. But sometimes you got to figure it out on your own. You got to find out what you have inside of you. Well, that's what Wiley did. He came up, used a bit of imagination and somewhat sneakiness, because when you're dealing with the hairy man with the hair sticking out of the nostrils, I know he's hairy. And he said, Mr. Hairy Man, can you do a magic trick? I hear you're a conjure man. That means you conjure things. Yeah. Can you do a trick? Come on down. I don't have time. I'm hungry for the dirty clothes. I'm going to wrap the clothes, you in the clothes, and I'm going to eat you like a big, wrap of like a burrito. It came to his mind suddenly. He heard like a voice call out burrito, and he thought, yes, because he's a conjure man. He hears voices. Sometimes he thinks kids are gathered all around him telling him these things. Anyway, he's thinking, I ain't coming down unless you do a trick. All right, Wiley. But I ain't got all day. He went to look for his watch, but he couldn't find it with all the hair. Too much hair. Probably didn't even have a watch. It was just a hair that looked like the hand on the watch. Anyway, if I do a trick, you'll come down. Yeah, I'll come down. All right. What's the trick? Can you make a piece of rope up here? I'm a conjure man. That's, of course, one of the first things they make us do. They make the rope appear. Then you'll come down. I'll come down. You know what that, the hair. You can't even see the hair. Rope appeared. Now, to Wiley, it looked like he pulled the rope out of the hair, but he's not going to argue because the guy would probably ask him to come down and look in his hair. He'd grab him and eat it. Well, that's pretty good, said Wiley. Still waiting. No dogs. He had a problem. Are you going to come down now? I ain't coming down. Why not? Because I think he just pulled the rope out of that hair. I'm a magician. I didn't do that. I made the rope appear. You didn't hear the... Yeah, but I think you just... Because I saw the hair with the mouth. When I make the rope appear, it makes that sound. That's the magic sound. That's what it does. Are you sure you don't have gas? It ain't tank. That's it. That's the sound of the rope appearing. I come down if you do another trick, but don't make that sound. Don't do any of that. Don't make the hair. Don't make that. None of that. And since he was way up at the top of the tree, he looked down and he was bold. He said, Ann, I ain't coming down until you fix that breath. Eat a leaf or something so that it freshens the breath. Why do you care? I'm about to eat you in the dirty clothes. You'll go through the mouth very quickly. Anyway, so there he was. I will come down if you make all the rope in the world disappear. Then you'll come down. I will come down. Well, the hairy man, I mean, that's a big one because it's all the stood there thinking, and when he thinks, he makes that sound. All right. But you'll come down. Meanwhile, Mom was still with that broom trying to, but now the mouse had it, was pulling on it, and she was poking it with the broom. The mouse, the milk was like boiling. Mom, your boy's about to be eaten. But nothing. That wasn't a booger, that was a hair. The first thing was a booger. As if you don't know what that is and you've never looked at your own booger. All the rope in the world disappeared. And suddenly they heard it. Wiley, yeah. What was that? There's my dogs! With the dog, the rope had disappeared off the dogs. Off they went, lickety-split, running through that forest. They ran straight over the water, over a round tree. Snake! You're used to the snakes, so we have a bunch of swamp children here. Suddenly, he ran up. He's not a swamp child, but the rest of you are swamp child. I'm a swamp man. Went through. The hairy man had climbed up, brought him down, had picked him up like this. He was going to try to eat him quickly when the dogs arrived. And then the little chihuahua. They had gotten it from some kid at Plumber who brought the dog to school, that took it, and they needed a good home, and so then Wiley took it. And then a cat that thinks it's a dog. Wiley, I got to go. But I will see you again. And he made that sound because he was disappearing into the wood. That's it. Wiley still thinks that the man had eaten that burrito helped him go. And he was able to take the dirty clothes to the other side of the swamp and give it to Uncle Frank, who washed the clothes, and everything worked out just fine.